Okay, so this is Genesis chapter 4, the message. I'm gonna just dive in. Okay. Adam slept with his wife. She conceived and had Cain. She said, "I've gotten a man with God's help." Then she had another baby, Abel. Abel was a herdsman and Cain a farmer. Time passed. Cain brought an offering to God from the produce of his farm. Abel also brought an offering, but from the firstborn animals of his herd, choice cuts of meat. God liked Abel and his offering, but Cain and his offering didn't get his approval. Cain lost his temper and went into a sulk. God spoke to Cain. "Why this tantrum? Why the sulking? If you do well, won't you be accepted? And if you don't do well, sin is lying in wait for you, ready to pounce. It's out to get you. You've got to master it." Cain had words with his brother. They were out in the field. Cain came at Abel, his brother, and killed him. God said to Cain, Where's Abel, your brother?" He said, "How should I know? Am I his babysitter?" God said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is calling out to me from the ground. From now on, you'll get nothing but curses from this ground. You'll be driven from this ground that has opened its arms to receive the blood of your murdered brother." Cain said, I have to go back a bit. "You'll farm this ground, but it will no longer give you its best. You'll be a homeless wanderer of the earth." Cain said to God, "My punishment is too much. I can't take it. You've thrown me off the land and I can never again face you. I'm a homeless wanderer on earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." God told him, "No, anyone who kills Cain will pay for it 7 times over." God put a mark on Cain to protect him so that no one who met him would kill him. Cain left the presence of God and lived in no man's land east of Eden. Cain slept with his wife. She conceived and had Enoch. He then built a city and named it after his son Enoch. Enoch had Irad. Irad had Mahujael. Mahujael had Methushael. Methushael had Lamech. Lamech married 2 wives, Ada and Zillah. Ada gave birth to Yabal, the ancestor of all who live in the tents and herd cattle. His brother's name was Ubal, the ancestor of all who play in lyre the flute. Zillah gave birth to Tubal-Cain, who worked at the forge making bronze and iron tools. Tubal-Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, "Listen to me. You wives of Lamech, hear me out. I killed a man for wandering. I've killed a man for wounding me. A young man who attacked me. If Cain is averaged 7 times, if Cain is avenged 7 times, for Lamech it's 77. Adam slept with his wife again. She had a son who she named Seth. She said, God has given me another child in place of Abel whom Cain killed. And then Seth had a son whom he named Enosh. That's when men and women began praying and worshiping in the name of God. Okay, so there's a few things that I caught, and I'm kind of like messing up with my reading once again, but imperfection is perfection here. So I'm going to go back up, and there's some things in this version that, and also just reading it again, that I'm just noticing. About those offerings, Cain being a farmer and Abel is a herdsman, so it's very interesting. Cain brought an offering. This is verses 3 through 5. Cain brought an offering to God from the produce of his farm. Abel also brought an offering, but from the firstborn animals of his herd, choice cuts of meat. God liked Abel and his offering, but Cain and his offering didn't get his approval. Cain lost his temper and went into a sulk. So I'm still trying to get to the bottom of these offerings, right? It's obviously got something to do with what's going on in somebody's heart and their intention and their giving. And obviously Abel had this pure heart, and he was giving in the right heart, to his creator. Cain, on the other hand, and it says there's detail in Abel's giving. He's giving the firstborn animals of his herd and choice cuts of meat. I mean, these are tender meats, Also, it being the firstborn has some significance to Jesus Christ, I'm sure. But it just says for Cain brought an offering to God from the produce of his farm. It doesn't say anything else. Even in the King James Version, or any version, it really doesn't get into the details of what he did. He just gathered, it just seems he maybe just gathered fruit and vegetables or his produce, whatever, and just brought it, and who knows what was really going on in his heart, And he was really upset that God didn't accept it. Like, he saw that his brother was accepted, so that probably even made it worse, him being rejected. But it has something to do with what was going on inside him, like his heart. It has so much to do with what was going on in there. Because God didn't say, it wasn't because it was, the first, the choice cuts, that's just from what Abel had to give, because Abel is a herdsman. This guy, Cain, is a farmer, so what he has, he also has something of value, of an equal value, so to speak, that he could be giving and having God's approval, or respect. And something he did wrong, because God literally lets him know. In verses 6 through 7, God says, he spoke to Cain, "Why this tantrum? Why the sulking? If you do well, won't you be accepted? And if you don't do well, sin is lying in wait for you, ready to pounce. It's out to get you. You've got to master it." This is so true. This is what most people, including myself, everybody's got stuff, that they've had to deal with. But it's just as he says, it's just as God says, sin is lying in wait for you, it's ready to pounce if you're going to entertain it. And you have the choice not to entertain it. You have the choice to do better and treat people better and treat yourself better, improve yourself, love yourself enough to become a better person. And do better, what you're giving out into the world, or giving out to God, or giving out to people. You have the power, to choose that. It doesn't matter what your background is or how people did you. None of that matters. What are you going to do? So, and that's a hard pill to swallow, because then you got to look at yourself and realize that you have all these flaws and that there's work to do. And for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with having work to do. You always have work to do on yourself. And I think that's kind of fun, finding things about yourself that you need to improve in order to be a better person. And just in the world in general, in life. So, he's trying to warn him, and he's trying to tell him, just because he didn't accept it now, it doesn't mean that he wouldn't have accepted something in the future that he would have given with the right heart. He just kind of took that and it just made it worse. For him, he just didn't interpret it or take it and actually do something with it. He just went into a darker space to the point where he kills his own brother out of jealousy. Like, his brother didn't even do anything but exist and have a good heart for God. That's all he did. And his brother, who had the wrong heart, not giving correctly, not giving in the right heart to his God, and then just being really mad about that, not being accepted when it wasn't sincere in the first place. There's just a lot going on there. And he takes it out on some other person that doesn't have anything to do with their life and what they did. If that doesn't speak what people do in daily life, I don't know what else to tell you. People are constantly blaming others for how they are, and it's like, no, you can choose to be better. You can choose to be honest. You can choose to live a real, true, honest life and do what's right by others and yourself. You can choose to improve yourself. If you know that you have hate in your heart, figure out why you have that. And maybe that's going to take a lot of therapy and a lot of Jesus, but you got to start somewhere. I don't know. Or you can be like Cain and just have hate in your heart towards people for no reason and try to show them the hate. But for people like me, when I see that, I can see exactly what it is, that the person just has a lot of issues that they refuse to face or deal with, and they're not walking with God. They're thinking that it's just them or their abilities or something. And that's the first mistake you could ever make. It's like not having him around, because he'll tell you, God will tell you all the things you need to know about what you need to start working on and where you fall short, like he's not looking for perfection, but he's certainly not looking for us to just stay in our sin and just stay in a hateful mode or just stay like making the wrong choices even for ourselves and our soul. He's there to help. He even, as I said, was speaking to Cain about these things, and he just didn't take the message. He just let the evil, like how he said, he just had sin out to get him, and he went with it. Kind of like that tree of knowledge of good and evil fruit with the serpent. It's just, it all starts with this in your mind, or in your heart. It starts in there, and then it depends on if you want to feed into that or not. And then if you keep feeding into it, geez, it's like that stuff can become a part of you. It's definitely demonic. There's definitely some demonic spirits working through people because of the sins that they can't let go, and the demons are more than happy to help them perpetuate it. I would know, firsthand with the things that I've dealt with, and some things I'm still dealing with. But you got to realize at some point, like, none of that stuff is really worth it. And just firsthand experience, none of it brings you any happiness. You spend so much time trying to drown it out with things and people and whatever, outward elements. And you might even spend much time projecting yourself, your own characteristics on others, because you're lost and probably in pain, pretending to be happy. But happy people don't do those things, Happy people don't be jealous of others and constantly hateful toward people that they don't know, or they're not killing, or they're not doing things like this, that happy people don't do those things. They do more like what Abel was doing, just living his life and walking with God and offering things to God with his whole heart, and trying to be the best version of him that he can be in his life. So that is Genesis chapter 4. There's one other thing I wanted to mention, and then I'll stop. Chapter 4, verses 23 through 24, Lamech said to his wives, which is like Cain's great something grandson. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, listen to me. You wives of Lamech, hear me out. I killed a man for wounding me. A young man who attacked me. if Cain is avenged 7 times, for Lamech it's 77. I don't know if that's true. He's just over there making declarations of his own. So I'm not really sure how well that actually holds up, what he said. But just the part that he killed a man for wounding him, for attacking him, because it doesn't even say exactly how the man had wounded him. It could have been a verbal wound for all we know. The attack could have been a verbal attack. It's not necessarily specified exactly what this young man that he killed just did. But he killed him over it. Think about how severe that is. People do that all the time, trying to get their lick backs or their get backs or whatever you call it. Oh, I think you did this to me, I'm going to do it back to you. Some people are like just doing that for nothing, just because they feel like a person is offensive to them and they did nothing at all. And so they spend their time, quote unquote, trying to kill, like in that mode of hate. And it's just for what, though? I don't know. I just never really understood hate on these types of levels. It's very interesting that God also says that no one gets to kill Cain, even though Cain is killed. He's not only showing him mercy, but it reminds me of the death penalty. Like, in some states or some places, in the world, you killed someone, so we're going to kill you. And then you have like the family and whatever just watching this person die. I just think everything about it is sick. Because if you're upset about taking a soul and you thought that soul was something special, who are you to say, even if he did, this person that's in the death row, even if he did murder 1,000 people, it's like, and I get it to an extent, but it isn't your place to take his life. And it doesn't make you any better at that point. You're also a murderer. So should you also be in that chair, or lethally injected too, because that person took a life, so you're watching him get his life taken as a revenge. Then somebody needs to take your life, and then the cycle just goes on and on and on, right? It just kind of makes me think of that. Why don't we just stop with that one person that was killing? Why do we have to try to do the same back? I don't understand the purpose of somebody does something to you that is wrong, and then you feel like you have to do it back to them. As adults, I understand why children, and I work with children, I understand why children do that, because they don't know any better. But adults know better. That's weird behavior. You did something to me, or I feel like you've done something to me, and I'm so sensitive inside of whatever it is that you've done that I don't have any maturity to take the higher route and be better than that. For all I know, whatever it is that's being assumed could be all in that person's head and have nothing to do with the person of which they're seeking their revenge or their lick back or murder or whatever. Just really, it just goes back to the laws of God and the ways of God. There's a reason why he says don't do things. Which includes vengeance and revenge, because only he's the true judge. Only he has the right, and only he would know just how to avenge. Only he would know how to do it correctly, because he knows what's in the person's mind and heart, not us. So I don't know. I've had people like that I don't even know try to seek some weird revenge. Some people constantly do it. I've had people do that for years and I don't even know them. And it's just, I didn't do anything to them. So I just kind of look at it as, you need Jesus. And I pray for those people right now. Like, I'm just sending up prayers even for people like that, because they need God. And it's obviously, as I said in the other video, the King James version of this chapter 4, Genesis, people who are out here doing stuff like this willingly and consistently, like with no signs of relenting, they are people who are probably in a lot of pain. Doesn't excuse this behavior at all. Let me put that out there. Doesn't excuse it. And it doesn't mean that whoever they're doing it to should stick around or take it. But it means really that there's a lot of things wrong inside that person that they need God's help. And probably the best thing you could do for people if they show you that type of activity is say a prayer at least for them or something. You never know. God is listening, and you never know. God can do anything, which includes helping that person heal, helping them find the water of life, helping them heal and become better people, hopefully, and stop that ridiculousness. But that's the end of this chapter. This is Genesis chapter 4 of the Message, and I hope you got something out of it. I pray that you did. And I guess I'll see you in the next chapter. Thanks for listening. And I pray many, many, many blessings over you as usual. Bye.